Ryan here again, and it's time. It is time. It is time for the review of Kendrick Lamar. Damn. Kendrick Lamar probably doesn't need an introduction at this point, but just in case he does, he is a Compton rapper. He's been dropping potential classic albums of this generation for quite a few years now. Good Kid, Mad City, straight on to Pimp a Butterfly, which he managed to outdo everything he did on Good Kid, Mad City with that album, and To Pimp a Butterfly is probably going to go down as this decade's greatest hip hop release. I can't see anything beating that, or if anything does, then it's probably going to be by Kendrick Lamar again. And yeah, this new album here, he's released this. He teased up to it with the Heart Part 4, which was quite an intense track. It seemed as though he was specifically talking at someone, ready to expose some lies. And here we have the album, and maybe we've not quite had that track live up to what he said he was going to do, but we have quite an interesting selection of tracks here to talk about. Damn is Kendrick Lamar's least conceptual album to date. There isn't one specific focus point throughout the album. There isn't really one main theme that ties it all together, just like he's done in the past. This time around, we're focusing on many different topics that are currently going on in Kendrick Lamar's life. We seem to be focusing on him tackling fame, love in his life, kind of all these different conflicts and dilemmas that are currently going on through his mind whilst he's kind of being put on this pedestal as a current day rap god. Now, this isn't the first time that a rapper has come out and said, they're a god. We've seen Kanye do it, Nas do it, I'm pretty sure Jay-Z did it, Eminem did it, and Kendrick Lamar is just another one of the rappers in the stage of their career that has gotten to the point where they feel as though they have the claim to compare themselves to a god, and I can't really argue with that. I mean, people are considering Kendrick Lamar one of the greatest rappers alive. I've seen this so many times. Even I would maybe say that as well. But the only difference here is, though, is that this is the kind of song that you would expect to be braggadocious and, kind of on an album where all the other tracks are fitting this theme as well. But, this isn't the case at all. You just have to look at the track listing of this album and you see that there is so much more going on with Kendrick right now that he's beginning to question more than just the social state that America is currently in right now, like he did on his last album, To Pimp a Butterfly. Instead, he's, looking at philosophical ideas. He's touching on religious themes. We've got the tracks titled Lust, Fear, Love, like these are kind of personal issues that Kendrick is trying to make sense of. And that's the thing about this album as well. This is far more personal than anything Kendrick has ever done. The only thing I could say about it, though, is that he could maybe delve into these topics with a bit more detail. I think that he does touch on these ideas well, but, it's kind of like just on the surface. It's sometimes you do wish that Kendrick just kind of took that step further, like with the track Love, which might be the worst song on this album, I would have to say, because of the really bad guest feature from Zachary. And also, like for a track titled Love, you would kind of think that there would be more to it than just a kind of bad chorus and not really much from Kendrick in the verses. We've also got the track Loyalty. Again, this is In fact, I would say this might be the worst on the album instead of Love because we just have this really terrible sample. We don't really, again, get much from Kendrick Lamar. This isn't really his strongest lyrically or vocally. There's the Rihanna feature, which probably is the best part of the song, but again, nothing really comes together in the end. And those two tracks I just mentioned, Love and Loyalty, I would probably go as far as saying these are some of the worst ever songs I've heard Kendrick Lamar make. These are really that bad. Although musically I'm not really in love with a lot of this album, I am happy that Kendrick has once again moved away onto a different sound and he's attempting to do new things, and he's not just doing the same album over and over again. That's the Kendrick guarantee you'll get. You're not going to get the same album every time. It's just I wish that some of the music on this album was a bit more exciting, like on the track Lust, which has this slow, dull instrumental which doesn't really grab me. It's quite a long song as well. However, it does start off with the line "I need some water," which totally reminds me of Mick Jenkins's The Waters EP. I do like how there's a little link there. Um, yeah, but lyrically, this track isn't one of the worst songs on the album, but I'm just not grabbed by the music, unfortunately. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I'm not grabbed by the music on a lot of these songs, because that isn't true. We do have the track DNA, and oh my God, the beat switch up. I'm not the first to say this because the beat switch up is just incredible. I cannot believe how good that is. Not only is it incredible, but it might be one of the best beat switches I've ever heard. It's kind of reminded me of how good the beat switch up is on "Oh My Darling Don't Cry" by Run the Jewels. I used to think that was incredible, and now I think we have a new winner here. Oh Lord, this track is incredible, and not only that, but we do have Kendrick rapping a lot about some of the themes that he brings up on later in this album. He talks about loyalty on this track, and I'm pretty sure he brings up, being humble as well. It's kind of a little running theme, but it's not something that ties the whole album together. But this is really an amazing opening track to the album. There's a track Feel, which has this really nice watery R&B beat. Kendrick's really rapping on here about so many things. He's just constantly saying how he feels about so many different things. It's like just this one big, like, bomb has just gone off in his mind and everything's just scattered around, and he's just really laying off all of the things that are currently going on with him right now. One thing I find interesting about this track is that he says, "Ain't nobody praying for me," and then later on in the album, he kind of pleads at people, saying, "Pray for me," and I really quite like the different, like the contrast there between those two moments. I also really love the track Pride, which is quite a slow moving beat, but the guitar in the background is really nice, and Kendrick Lamar makes reference to the track after, Humble, in this song as well, which I think kind of is a nice link in there. And about Humble, I really love this song as well. I think it's grown on me so much since the album. I thought before the album this wasn't going to be one of the better songs because I thought it felt like just a single prior to the album, the one with the bouncier beat, kind of the hard hitting, music that surrounds it, and then I thought the rest of the album wasn't going to be as kind of instantly catchy as this track, but it turns out that this is actually one of the highlights here. I love the beat on this song. It's really banging. I like how it seems as though Kendrick Lamar is talking to other rappers, sit down, be humble, and I quite like how Kendrick has put himself in this position of authority to kind of like be the one that is kind of like the leader of the group of rappers that are up and coming in today's world. Another great track on this album, surprisingly, is Triple X, which features Bono of U2 on the vocals. And, when I saw this track list, I was like, what? But somehow it's ended up being one of the best songs. I mean, I'm pretty sure most Kendrick Lamar fans would not, um, you know, expect that a U2 feature track would be so good, but it really is. I really like this track. It has a few different sections of the song, and then when Bono's vocals come in, it fits in really well, and he sounds pretty damn good as well. I'm quite surprised how well this track has turned out, and I must have to talk about the track Fear, which is a an amazing introspective storytelling track from Kendrick Lamar. He talks three different phases of his life. One where he's 7 years old, and he's basically talking about all the times that he's felt the fear emotion, So when he's a child, he's talking about the fear of getting into trouble from his parents and being yelled at and kind of being, disciplined. Then he goes on, the second verse goes on to him being 17 years old and how he constantly walks around with this fear of being killed. And it's quite an intense second verse, I think, in comparison to the first verse. And then the next verse after that, we get him as a 27-year-old, and he's actually rapping about, his current lifestyle that he's got now, his fame, his kind of fear of being judged. And it's just like quite incredible how he was able to go three different stages of his life and link all these different feelings together, but it's all kind of ties in with how no matter, where he is in his life, he'll always have some kind of fear, and how there'll always be that feeling within him where he's just scared of something that will happen regardless of what it is. It's just going to always be there, and it's like he's battling his inner demons with this one, and it's really quite amazing. I think this is one of the best songs on this album. Then we have the closing track on the album, which is one of the best songs here again, and it might just be some of the best storytelling Kendrick Lamar has ever done. Kendrick Lamar is talking about how Top Dog Entertainment started. He's talking about a character called Anthony, and yeah, this is the Kendrick Lamar that I just live for. This is some of the best writing he's ever done, and it's okay that he doesn't always have to have all his songs like this, but this is the kind of Kendrick that I think his fans truly love. And then right at the end of the track, we get, sort of the death of Kendrick Lamar, which cycles back round to the first track, Blood, and it's kind of like a loop. And, we get the start of the album once again. And yeah, overall, I do think this is a good album. I can't help but feel that there are some of the worst songs he's ever made on here, as well as some of his best. So we don't usually get that from Kendrick Lamar. Usually his albums are incredibly consistent. There's usually a consistency within the sound of the album as well, and there certainly isn't this time on Damn, even though a lot of the ideas that he's come up with do work very well, and there are some really fantastic beats on this album, and his lyrics are at points incredible as well. It just isn't all the way through, which is what I want from Kendrick Lamar. This might be a good album for someone that doesn't want something as heavy as Good Kid, Mad City or To Pimp a Butterfly, because they are very heavy albums. They are very long albums as well. This is just under an hour long, so this could appeal to a lot more people. But I think his core fan base will recognize that there are some flaws in this album that could have been avoided if the songs sounded better. And yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got to say about this album. It's good. I'm just not completely in love with it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for listening to what I had to say. Goodbye. Yay, yay, yay.